A review has recommended key changes to prevent the programme aiming to stop people becoming terrorists. It looked into two high-profile cases where murders were not prevented when they might have been. The MP Sir David Amess was killed by a teenager who was under the scheme. The mass stabbing attack at a dance event in Southport a year ago was carried out by a killer whose case was 3 times rejected by police. Well, our UK editor Paul Brand is here. So, Paul, what did the report say went wrong in these two cases?
Well, let's take them one by one, Mary. If we talk about Sir David Amess's murder first, he was killed by Ali Harbi Ali in 2021. And Ali had actually been referred to Prevent and passed on to the Channel programme, which is the programme that looks at the most serious potential offenders, the suspects they have most concern about. But essentially what today's report says is that really they didn't monitor him very closely. They set up 7 mentoring sessions with him where someone would try and sort of talk him out of extremism. Only one of those sessions was attended by Ali, and then eventually his case was closed and he later went on to kill Sir David Amess. Then secondly, the case of Axel Rudakubana, who killed those 3 girls in Southport last year. Well, in his case, he was repeatedly referred to Prevent, but Prevent just didn't take up the opportunity to look at him. They never referred him on to this Channel programme that deals with the most serious suspects. And part of the issue with Rudakubana was that he didn't have a clear ideology, which is sort of central to today's report. This idea that you need some sort of narrative behind what you're doing as an extremist in order to qualify for the Prevent programme. You need to be an Islamist, for example, or a far-right nationalist in order to be treated as a terrorist under this scheme. And that, in large part, was the problem with Rudakubana. They couldn't identify a clear ideology, so they overlooked him.
OK, so those are 2 specific cases. But what are the broader recommendations that this report makes?
I think the most eye-catching one and the most serious one with the greatest ramifications for policy really is this idea that there are too many people without a clear ideology who are being overlooked by Prevent. So the recommendation is bring anyone with sort of an unhealthy interest in violence into the Prevent programme. In Axel Rudakubana's case, for example, he was Googling all sorts of horrendous atrocities from the past. He clearly had an interest in violence. Why wasn't he brought in to Prevent? I mean, to be fair to Prevent, that's not what it was originally designed to do, and that's the recommendation today, is change its remit, bring in people, as I say, who have this interest in mass violence, and I think that will be the recommendation that creates the most change, and the Home Office at the moment are accepting that recommendation. They're accepting all of these recommendations.
It's easier said than done, though, isn't it, in a way? I mean, you just have to ask the question whether these changes, sensible they may seem, will actually work in practice.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there are 2 key practical issues with recommending just bringing anyone who's got an interest in violence into the Prevent scheme. Firstly, resourcing. It takes a lot of resource to closely monitor someone like this, an extremist or someone who's obsessed with violence. And if we are increasing the number of people going into that scheme, obviously we need an increase in the number of officers who are monitoring them. Is that practical at a time when there's not a lot of public money floating around? And secondly, there is a lesser issue that is brought up here around liberty as well. Amnesty International, for example, saying today we shouldn't just be sort of mass monitoring large sections of the population. We've got to have a really, really, really good reason to put someone under that level of monitoring in order to infringe on their liberties in that way. And some people might find that, you know, sort of frivolous to talk about liberty in the case of someone like Axel Rudakubana. But there will be lesser cases where maybe someone doesn't then go on to commit violence, where we might feel more uncomfortable about monitoring them on a day-to-day basis. So let's see how this develops in practical terms, but it's going to be difficult.
Real problem, isn't it, Paul? Thank you.